A tourist threw his drink at the royal guard, thinking he'd look cool online. But one lightning-fast catch turned his prank into the biggest humiliation of his life. Here's what happened.
Dawn arrived at Buckingham Palace with a gentle whisper, painting the sky in hues of soft gold and rose. The morning mist clung to the ancient stones, creating an almost mystical atmosphere around the palace grounds. As the sun climbed higher, its rays caught the gleaming gates and polished railings, transforming them into ribbons of light against the historic facade. At his post stood Michael Bennet, a royal guard whose presence commanded attention without seeking it. At 27, he already carried himself with the gravitas of a much older soldier. His service record spoke of dedication, 3 tours of duty, multiple commendations, and now the honor of guarding the palace. The morning light played across his scarlet tunic, making the brass buttons shine like stars against the pristine fabric. Michael's bear skin hat sat perfectly positioned, adding several inches to his already impressive height. His posture was impeccable, shoulders squared, chin lifted, eyes focused on some distant point beyond the gathering crowd. Not a single thread on his uniform was out of place. Even his boots gleamed with a mirror-like finish that reflected the early morning light. The tourist crowds began to gather, their excited chatter creating a constant hum around the palace grounds. Cameras clicked incessantly, their flashes competing with the natural sunlight. Children pointed and whispered, some trying to catch Michael's eye, others hiding shyly behind their parents' legs. A tour guide's voice rose above the general murmur, explaining the significance of the guards and their centuries-old traditions. "The guards aren't just for show," the guide was saying, her voice carrying clearly across the square. "They're elite soldiers, trained to protect and serve." A few tourists nodded appreciatively, while others continued snapping photos, treating Michael more like a tourist attraction than a serving member of the military. The morning air grew warmer as more visitors filled the square. Some maintained a respectful distance, content to observe and appreciate. Others edged closer to the barriers, seeking the perfect angle for their photographs. Michael remained motionless, his discipline evident in every line of his stance. His eyes, though fixed ahead, missed nothing, a skill honed through years of military service. Through it all, Michael stood as still as the palace itself, an embodiment of the unwavering dedication that had protected the crown for centuries. His presence spoke of something greater than just a man in uniform. He was a living symbol of tradition, honor, and duty. Little did he know that this ordinary morning was about to test those values in ways he couldn't imagine. Through the sea of tourists, a young man in his mid-20s pushed his way forward. His presence seemed designed to attract attention. Designer sunglasses perched on his styled hair, a fitted shirt with Social Media King emblazoned across the chest, and a large iced coffee clutched in one hand. His name was Ryan Parker, and his TikTok account boasted 500,000 followers who lived for his savage pranks. Guys, check this out!" Ryan's voice cut through the respectful murmur of the crowd as he positioned himself for a selfie video. "We're about to make this guard famous." He flashed a peace sign at his phone, his other hand adjusting the expensive camera hanging around his neck. Behind him, 3 friends snickered, their own phones already recording. "Bet you can't make him laugh," one of his friends called out, loud enough for the surrounding tourists to hear. £100 says he doesn't even blink." Ryan's face lit up with the challenge. He handed his coffee to one of his friends and strutted closer to Michael, deliberately crossing into the guard's line of sight. "Hey, my man," he called out, waving his hand dramatically. "Your hat's bigger than my future." A few nervous laughs rippled through the crowd, but most people shifted uncomfortably. Michael remained perfectly still, his eyes fixed ahead, his posture unchanged. The morning sun caught his medals, sending bright flashes across the square, silent testimonies to his service that Ryan seemed blind to. "Oh, come on," Ryan pressed. moving even closer to the barrier. "Don't be such a stick in the mud. We're all here for fun, right?" He turned to his audience, playing to the cameras. "Look at this guy. Probably thinks he's too important to even acknowledge us." His friends laughed louder, encouraged by their leader's boldness. One of them, sporting a matching Prankster Squad t-shirt, tossed a wadded paper napkin that landed near Michael's polished boots. The crowd gasped softly, but Michael didn't so much as twitch. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ryan announced, raising his voice theatrically, "I present to you London's most expensive statue." He pulled out his phone again, narrating to his followers. "So we're here at Buckingham Palace, and this guy literally gets paid to ignore people. Best job ever, right?" A mother pulled her young son away, whispering something about respect. An elderly couple shook their heads in disapproval, but Ryan was too engrossed in his performance to notice the shifting mood of the crowd. "Watch this," he said to his phone, then turned back to Michael. "Hey, Queen's buddy, I heard these hats are fake fur, probably from the dollar store, am I right?" His friends howled with laughter, but their voices seemed to echo alone in the increasingly tense atmosphere. Ryan retrieved his coffee from his friend, taking a long sip through the straw while studying Michael's impassive face. "Maybe he's not ignoring us," he mused loudly. "Maybe he's sleeping with his eyes open. Should we check?" The crowd had grown larger now, drawn by the commotion. Phones emerged from pockets and bags, but they weren't just recording Ryan's prank anymore. They were documenting his increasing disrespect, the atmosphere heavy with anticipation of what might happen next. Michael stood unchanged, a pillar of dignity against the rising tide of provocation. His eyes remained forward, his posture perfect, but there was a subtle tension in his jaw now, barely noticeable except to the most observant onlookers. The morning had shifted from peaceful to precarious, and everyone could feel it. Ryan, emboldened by his own reflection in the sea of phone cameras, decided to escalate his performance. He moved even closer to the barrier, his iced coffee swishing dangerously in its plastic cup. "Guys, I don't think our friend here is very hospitable," Ryan announced to his live audience, his voice dripping with mock concern. "I mean, I came all the way from America for this." He checked his phone screen, grinning at the flood of incoming comments. "The fans want more action, buddy." A distinguished-looking man in a veteran's cap stepped forward from the crowd. "Young man," he called out, his voice steady but stern, "that uniform deserves your respect." Ryan spun around, his face lighting up at this new opportunity for drama. "Oh yeah? It's just fabric and buttons, old-timer. I could buy the whole outfit on Amazon." His friends snickered, but their laughter seemed more nervous now, aware of the growing hostility from the other tourists. Turning back to Michael, Ryan began a theatrical march, exaggerating every step in a crude imitation of the guard's disciplined movements. "Look at me, I'm so important," he mocked, swinging his arms in ridiculous arcs. "I can't move because tradition." More phones emerged from the crowd, but the expressions behind them were increasingly disapproving. "This is going viral for sure," one of Ryan's friends called out, but his voice wavered slightly as he noticed a palace security officer watching from the distance. The crowd had grown larger now, forming a semicircle around the scene. Parents whispered to their children, trying to explain why the man's behavior was wrong. A group of Japanese tourists lowered their cameras, bowing slightly in apology to the guard before stepping away from the spectacle. "Hey, statue man," Ryan continued, taking another loud sip of his coffee. "I heard you guys trained for months just to stand still. Must have been a real tough course. Did you practice in front of a mirror?" He paused for effect, then added with a sneer, "Or did your mommy teach you how to stand still?" Michael remained motionless, but those closest to him could see a subtle change. Though his eyes stayed fixed ahead, there was a newfound intensity in his gaze, like a gathering storm. His grip on his rifle tightened imperceptibly, the only sign that he was aware of the escalating situation. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ryan announced, spreading his arms wide, I think we need to help this guy out. He's obviously having a rough day. Maybe he needs a drink to loosen up." He shook his nearly empty coffee cup, the ice rattling ominously. The veteran stepped forward again. "That's enough, son. You've had your fun." "Fun?" Ryan's eyes glinted with malicious amusement. "We haven't even started the fun part yet." He turned to his phone again, speaking directly to his followers. "Okay, guys, watch this. We're about to make history." The tension in the square had reached a breaking point. Even Ryan's friends had started to edge backward, sensing that a line was about to be crossed. The security officer began moving closer, but he was still too far away to intervene immediately. Several more phones rose in the crowd, their owners sensing that something dramatic was about to unfold. The morning air seemed to crackle with anticipation, like the moment before a thunderstorm breaks. Michael stood unwavering, his dedication to duty visible in every line of his posture. But there was something else now, a barely perceptible readiness, like a coiled spring waiting to be released. The next few moments would test not just his training, but the very essence of what it meant to wear the uniform. "Time for the grand finale," Ryan announced, his voice cutting through the tense atmosphere. He raised his coffee cup high, making sure his phone captured every moment. The ice rattled against the plastic as he swirled it dramatically, droplets of condensation catching the sunlight. The crowd seemed to inhale collectively, sensing the impending disaster. A child's voice piped up, "Mummy, he's not going to," but was quickly hushed. The veteran took a step forward, his face darkening with concern, but he was too far away to intervene. "Let's see if our statue friend here is thirsty." Ryan's voice had taken on a theatrical quality, playing to his live audience. "Because this is about to become the most expensive coffee in London." Time seemed to slow down as Ryan pulled his arm back. The security officer had started running, but he was still 20 yards away. Michael remained perfectly still, though a subtle tension had crept into his jaw, the only sign that he was acutely aware of what was about to happen. "3!" Ryan shouted, grinning at his phone. "2!" His friends had their cameras up, though their laughter had turned nervous. "1!" The cup left Ryan's hand in an arcing throw, brown liquid and ice crystals catching the sunlight as they sailed through the air. The crowd gasped, phones recording from every angle as the coffee spread in a dark spray, heading directly for Michael's face and pristine uniform. That's when everything changed. With a movement so swift it seemed almost impossible, Michael's right hand shot up from his rifle. In one fluid motion, born from years of military training, he caught the cup in mid-air, not a single drop touching his uniform. The crowd froze, stunned by the display of reflexes that seemed to defy human limitations. For the first time that morning, Michael's eyes locked directly onto Ryan's. The tourist's smug grin vanished instantly, replaced by a look of pure shock. The silence in the square was absolute, broken only by the sound of ice settling in the captured cup. "Oh my God," someone whispered, their words carrying clearly in the stillness. Michael's voice, when it came, was like thunder rolling across the square. "That will be quite enough." Each word was precisely measured, carrying the weight of centuries of tradition. He didn't shout. He didn't need to. His tone carried an authority that made Ryan physically step backward. The crowd erupted in gasps and exclamations. Phones captured every second as Michael, maintaining perfect posture, slowly lowered the cup to his side. His eyes never left Ryan's face, and in that gaze was something that made the tourist's bravado crumble completely. I was just..." Ryan stammered, his phone dropping to his side, live stream forgotten. His friends had already begun backing away, trying to disappear into the crowd. The security officer finally reached them, but he paused, recognizing that Michael had the situation completely under control. The guard's presence had transformed. While still maintaining his ceremonial stance, he now radiated an authority that commanded the entire square. Ryan's face had turned from shocked white to burning red as he realized that his viral moment had indeed arrived, just not in the way he'd planned. The crowd's phones were still recording, but now they were capturing his humiliation rather than his imagined triumph. Michael's next movements were a masterclass in military precision. Still holding the captured coffee cup, he took one measured step forward, his boots striking the cobblestones with a sound that seemed to echo across the suddenly silent square. Though he hadn't raised his voice, his next words carried to every corner of the crowd. In 250 years of guard duty at this palace, Michael's voice was calm, but carried an edge of steel. We have faced revolution, war, and countless attempts at provocation. Yet here you stand, thinking a coffee cup would accomplish what armies could not. The crowd remained frozen, captivated by this unprecedented break from silence. Ryan's phone hung limply at his side, still broadcasting to his followers, but he seemed to have forgotten all about his social media presence. His face had drained of all color as Michael continued. This uniform, Michael's words were measured, each one landing like a precise hammer blow, represents the sacrifices of generations. The men who wore it before me died defending what you mock. This isn't a costume, sir. It's a symbol of duty, honor, and respect, concepts that clearly escape your understanding. A murmur of approval rippled through the crowd. Someone started to clap, but quickly fell silent, sensing that Michael wasn't finished. The security officer had taken position behind Ryan, but made no move to intervene, recognizing that this lesson in respect needed to be delivered. Michael's next move was so smooth, it seemed choreographed. He rotated the coffee cup in his hand, examining it with exaggerated care. "Your name is on the cup," he observed, his voice taking on an almost conversational tone. "Ryan Parker, along with your social media handles, I see. How convenient for the authorities." Ryan swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing visibly. His friends had completely disappeared into the crowd, leaving him to face the consequences alone. The veteran who had tried to intervene earlier now stood with a satisfied smile, nodding in approval at Michael's handling of the situation. "The Metropolitan Police take a particularly dim view of assault on royal guards," Michael continued, his voice never rising above its measured tone. "I believe they'll be quite interested in the multiple videos of your actions today." He gestured slightly with his free hand, indicating the forest of phones still recording the scene. A woman in the crowd called out, "I've already sent my video to the police website." Others nodded, phones busy uploading evidence of Ryan's misconduct. Michael's next words were delivered with precision that cut through Ryan's remaining bravado. "You came here seeking attention, Mr. Parker. Congratulations, you have it, along with a formal charge of attempted assault on a royal guard. I trust this is the sort of viral content you were hoping to create?" The security officer finally stepped forward, placing a firm hand on Ryan's shoulder. "Sir, you'll need to come with me." Michael's final gesture was a masterpiece of military bearing. He tucked the coffee cup into his belt, adjusted his rifle to its proper position, and resumed his stance, all in one fluid motion that spoke of years of training. His eyes returned to their forward position, but not before giving Ryan one final look that made the tourist visibly wince. The moment Michael resumed his post, the crowd erupted into spontaneous applause. The sound rolled across the square like thunder, bouncing off the palace walls and drowning out Ryan's protests as the security officer led him away. Phones remained raised, but now they were capturing something entirely different, a moment of triumph for tradition over disrespect. "That's how it's done," the veteran called out, his voice thick with emotion. He stepped forward, removing his service cap and holding it over his heart. 30 years in service, and I've never seen anything finer." Other veterans in the crowd followed suit, creating a ripple of silent salutes that spoke volumes. A young boy, perhaps 7 or 8, tugged at his mother's sleeve. "Mum, when I grow up, I want to be just like him." The mother smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. "Then you'll have to learn what real strength looks like, love. It's not about pranks and social media. It's about dignity, just like this gentleman showed us. The crowd's mood had transformed entirely. Those who had initially laughed at Ryan's antics now looked embarrassed, some even deleting their earlier recordings. A group of teenagers who had been live streaming quickly ended their broadcasts, one of them muttering, "That was proper respect, that was." "Did you see how he caught that cup?" someone exclaimed. "Like a bloody superhero." "No, better than a superhero," an elderly woman corrected, her voice carrying clearly. "A superhero would have shown off. This is what real service looks like. Power under perfect control." Social media was already ablaze. Those watching Ryan's live stream had witnessed his humiliation in real time, and the comments were flooding in. "This guard just schooled you in class. Definition of FAFO right here." So imagine thinking you could mess with the Queen's Guard and win. A tour guide, seizing the educational moment, gathered her group closer. "What you've just witnessed," she explained, "is why these guards are more than just tourist attractions. They're elite soldiers, chosen for their discipline and dedication. That coffee cup could have been something far more dangerous, and this guard just proved why they're always ready." Two young women who had been recording everything approached the veteran. "Sir, would you mind being in our video? We're doing a proper tribute to show what really happened here." The veteran agreed, and soon he was explaining to their followers about the history and significance of the guard tradition. Children who had hidden behind their parents earlier now stood in front of Michael, trying to mimic his perfect posture. Their parents, rather than treating it as a photo opportunity, were teaching them about respect and duty. "Straight back, darling," one father instructed his daughter. "See how still he stands? That's what dedication looks like." The crowd had swelled even larger now, but the atmosphere was completely different. People maintained a respectful distance, taking photos with genuine admiration, rather than treating Michael like a prop for their entertainment. Some even bowed slightly before taking their pictures, acknowledging the tradition he represented. Two uniformed Metropolitan Police officers had arrived at the palace gates, their presence adding official weight to the situation. Ryan stood between them, his social media king shirt looking particularly ironic now as an officer read him his rights. His phone, still clutched in his trembling hand, continued to stream, capturing his own downfall for his followers. "But it was just a prank," Ryan protested weakly, his voice cracking. "I have millions of views on these videos." "Then you'll have quite an audience for this one too," the first officer replied dryly, gesturing at the sea of phones still recording. "Attempted assault on a Queen's Guard is a serious offense, sir. Your social media status doesn't grant you immunity from the law." The second officer was taking statements from witnesses, including the veteran who had tried to intervene earlier. The coffee was clearly aimed at his face, the veteran stated firmly. "In my military experience, that constitutes a direct assault." Ryan's face, already pale, turned almost ghostly as he heard snippets of conversation around him. "They're reporting him to the American embassy. Could face a travel ban. Thousands in fines." His followers were flooding his live stream with comments, but not the kind he'd hoped for. "Bro really thought he could assault a royal guard. This is going to be on your record forever, my guy. Congratulations, you played yourself." The security officer who had first intervened stepped forward with Ryan's coffee cup, the evidence that Michael had so deftly caught. "We'll need this for the report," he said, carefully bagging it, "along with the approximately 200 videos we've already received from witnesses." A woman in the crowd called out, "I've got it all in 4K, officers, from the moment he started harassing the guard." Others chimed in, eager to provide their footage, creating a comprehensive digital record of Ryan's foolishness. Ryan's demeanor had completely changed. Gone was the swaggering social media star, replaced by a subdued young man who seemed to be realizing the full consequences of his actions. "Can't we just delete the videos?" he asked quietly. "The internet never forgets, mate," one of the officers responded. "Especially not something like this." The police began leading Ryan away, but before they could, the veteran stepped forward one last time. "Young man," he said, his voice carrying the weight of years of service, "I hope you learned something today. That uniform you mocked? Men died wearing it. That tradition you laughed at? It's survived centuries. And that guard you tried to humiliate? He just showed you what real dignity looks like." As Ryan was escorted to the waiting police car, the crowd parted like a sea, some people shaking their heads, others capturing these final moments of his walk of shame. His previous audience had become witnesses to his consequence, and no one was laughing now. Through it all, Michael maintained his post, his posture perfect, his dignity intact. He had become more than just a guard to the watching crowd. He was a symbol of everything Ryan had failed to understand: honor, tradition, and unwavering duty. By sunset, the video had gone viral, spreading across major news networks with headlines like "Queen's Guard shows perfect restraint against social media prankster," and "Dignity defeats disrespect. Royal Guard's response goes viral." The coffee-catching moment, edited into countless slow-motion clips, captivated millions. Military veterans and analysts appeared on news segments, breaking down the technique and discipline displayed in those crucial seconds. "What we witnessed," explained a former Royal Guard commander on BBC News, "was years of training crystallized into a single moment. That catch wasn't just about stopping a coffee cup. It was about maintaining the dignity of a centuries-old tradition." Social media exploded with the incident. Ryan's live stream, meant for mockery, became a masterclass in consequences, viewed over 50 million times. Royal Guard respect trended worldwide. When disrespect meets discipline, this is what real power looks like. How to catch coffee and serve humility simultaneously. Ryan's social media empire crumbled. Sponsors fled, followers vanished, and his apology video only fueled more criticism. The court's fine stung, but the permanent UK ban hurt more. Meanwhile, Michael received a commendation at a palace ceremony. True to form, he remained humble. "I simply did my duty, as every guard before me has done, and every guard after me will do." The coffee cup became a training exhibit at the Royal Military Academy, a reminder that sometimes the quietest actions speak the loudest, and tradition, upheld with dignity, will always triumph over temporary fame. Today, when tourists gather at Buckingham Palace, they whisper about the coffee cup incident, passing down a lesson about respect that will endure for generations to come. If you enjoyed this Royal Guard story of dignity triumphing over disrespect, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon. You won't want to miss our next incredible tale of tradition, honor, and justice served at Buckingham Palace. Share with friends who appreciate real heroes, and join our growing community of Royal Guard story enthusiasts. New stories every week.